This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. Ready to drink cocktails. High Noon, Jack Daniels, Crown Royal. I know after staff meetings, Todd and I want to partake. What? Do I speak for you on that? And the pickle bar, led by the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none. Outlet, Brewers Outlet. Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. The great Neal Coolong now joins us. Sir, always a pleasure.
You bet. Pleasure is all mine. It's great to be here.
All right. So I watched the game on Sunday. And I have no idea how good either team is when it was over with.
The fun of week one, right? I mean, it was a lot of week one football.
At Buffalo, hey, I felt the same way about Buffalo and Baltimore. I don't know how good either team is after watching that game.
Oh, yeah. Well, frankly, only 100 people watched the game end to end. I mean, there's no way anybody stayed up. I know I did. I woke up and was completely shocked. I was like, there's no way Buffalo won that game.
I watched it. I actually stayed.
Did you really?
I watched it. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, remember, I mean, I do my game on Saturday. I don't really watch a lot of football on Saturday because I'm working. So I just wanted to watch a game. I thought, all right, I'll just stick with this thing. All right.
That was the thing. You weren't watching a game. You were watching a massacre. I mean, it was that says one. I don't know how many more examples I've seen over 2-3 quarters of an offense in complete control of a game than I was watching Baltimore.
Right.
Like, that was impressive. You know, they're going to play each other again. I'm not, I'm not down on the Ravens and their stock for this season, but they looked phenomenal until they didn't, and that just kind of seems to be a thing with them. It's I don't know what it is exactly, but for me, I think it was summarized best with the fact that you've got King Henry running wild. Lamar isn't getting touched in the backfield before he's throwing or passing. You have a bevy of options, and then all of a sudden you're running a jet sweep to Zay Flowers on second down in a first down and it's over situation. I don't know why you're doing that.
Yeah,
I don't think
either.
You should play it like the rules. You have that much offensive firepower. Line up and make them stop you. In case you haven't noticed, and there's no reason that you shouldn't have, they haven't stopped you all night. So no reason for them to have kind of tightened up the way that they did. It seemed they were more worried, in my opinion, of John Harbaugh, a phenomenal coach, a Hall of Fame coach. He will outthink himself more often than not. And it's funny because it stands in contrast to the fans' delight when I say this. Mike Tomlin doesn't have that problem. Mike Tomlin is on the surface at all times, good or bad.
Right.
Harbaugh, though, will get it into their heads to do certain things and be a certain way. When Zay Flowers got that pitch, he was not looking to get upfield and get the first down. He was looking to stay in bounds, which is nice. You know, that's obviously a key detail, but the aggression isn't so much in the play call, though that play call makes no sense to me at all. It's more in the idea that you need to get upfield. That's far more important than staying in bounds. Staying in bounds being the second priority of it. You're nowhere near the out-of-bounds marker. Get up the field. Get yards. Try to make a guy miss. You need to be out of bounds to be out of bounds. You don't need to be 2 feet from out of bounds. It seems like they shrunk the field down and they play in this condensed manner in those situations, and this is what ends up happening. So to me, it's more like Harbaugh is stressing the details of all the little things that come up because that's who he is, and he forgets the bigger picture. He's missing the forest for the trees, and that's why he's got a laundry list of these weird comebacks from the last just even 5 years, really the Lamar Jackson era. They aren't able to close games out the way that they should, and they're destroying their opponents for a large swath of the game. And that said, they only just recently learned how to beat the Steelers. Keep that in mind, a team they've been better than for several years now. They broke a 6-game losing streak last season. So you put all that together, the Ravens themselves, I think, are the better team, and I think we saw that. But Buffalo, if you want to put it this way, is not smart enough to quit. They just kind of kept going. It's not like they changed anything either. They did the things that they know that they can do and let the alien just kind of be who he was. I mean, Josh Allen made some throws in the fourth quarter of that game that were just unreal. It was fun to watch on replay the next morning after finding out that Baltimore somehow lost that game.
Well, the Steelers, I mean, I want to give Justin Fields credit. I thought they played actually a very good game. But what stuck out to you about the Steelers' defense?
A complete failure in terms of gap discipline. I think a lot of it was the idea in mind that this is what Fields brings. Keep that in mind. Players like him, it's not always about the stat sheet. It's what you're going to make a defense do. They wanted to spy Fields quite a bit. And to the Jets' credit, they did a great job of keeping him in the pocket on design throws. He wasn't staring at the rush, seeing what he could do to kind of get around him and use his legs to get down the field. They had design runs for him, but by and large, when he dropped back to pass, he was going to throw the ball. I think you saw Keanu Benton, by and large, a lot of people really getting after him, and there was plenty to get after, but his job was not to penetrate and get to the quarterback. It was to hold the line of scrimmage as best he could. The Jets saw that coming, though, and double-teamed him. So they still had escape routes, but they didn't have control of either gap that the guards were defending. They just kind of pushed him where he stood or a yard back, and the edges that would collapse, they kind of held contain, and Fields had time to analyze the field and make throws down it. And on top of it, it almost seems like the Steelers forgot that the Jets might hand the ball off. Gap discipline in that regard was not there. Linebackers were playing off considerably. That's why you hear a lot of chatter from people about 2-man fronts, 3-man fronts. The Steelers, by and large, are playing a 2-4-5 defense. It depends on how you want to classify your ends, but their third down lineman is often either T.J. Watt or Alex Highsmith, depending on where they're positioned on that play. They're defending every gap with the linebackers that they have, and now Jalen Ramsey seems to be one of them at a safety position, especially with Deshaun Elliott out. So they had the gaps seemingly covered, but it seemed like they jumped away from them a lot. And to some degree, you have to credit the Jets. I felt their ground strategy was excellent. They did a great job scheming up what they wanted to do. And even though Vera Tucker wasn't playing, allegedly their best lineman, the unit that they had in there was well coached. They knew what they were doing, very well planned and executed. They lost that game more or less with their defense. I think the Jets were the better team overall. But as far as the Steelers' defense went, it really was seemingly confused up front. They didn't know who had what run responsibility. It's like they were waiting for passing that never came. And you did not see the safeties coming up to fill gaps very often. They did not blitz. Different kind of defensive strategy, and I think that's what the Steelers wanted to employ by bringing in more versatile defensive backs, or really just Jalen Ramsey, with the idea in mind that he's playing one of three positions, depending on what a defense is doing, and the run responsibility didn't seem to be getting filled by anybody. So a lot of that I think you can attribute to Week 1. They're absolutely in the lab figuring that out. The good news is the problems that we saw were largely obvious and fixable. Guys need to know where they're supposed to be in what call. With that, I think they have maybe a little bit less of a dominant running threat with Sam Darnold and the Seahawks next week. I think we'll see a step forward in that regard, but it was problematic. They were bad. They were really bad, particularly in the first half. That defensive effort is not going to win games very often. They caught a break with this one.
What did you think of Aaron Rodgers?
I thought that was the best quarterback game we've seen from the Steelers in 5 years.
Yep.
And it's easy to say that, but the reasons really kind of come down to the fact that this is what you love about Aaron Rodgers, the player. He's going to make up his mind. He's going to deliver the ball. We have not seen that. I believe I was on this spot last year, one of the first couple Russell Wilson games. I probably said something similar. Best game that we've seen from a quarterback in Pittsburgh in a while. The bar isn't set very high, but Wilson and Rodgers, the decisiveness, clearly in favor of Rodgers. Wilson did a great job for multiple games in Pittsburgh. I thought he played very well up until the time he stopped playing well. But Rodgers was not going to be denied. The competitive fire that he had, what he led with on the team, where he went with the ball, very much on schedule, but at the same time, he put his own brand on a lot of it. They didn't roll him out. They rolled him to the edge of the tackle box, and he's looking downfield to make plays when he needed to make plays. He didn't allow the play to develop, especially deep, and he took advantage of, to be fair, a really lagging Jets secondary. If the Steelers' defensive line was bad, the Jets secondary was at least on that level. Gave up a lot of plays they probably shouldn't have. They've got a lot to fix as well. But their pass rush was pretty intense. And the Steelers' offensive line that clearly still needs some retooling did not hold up well for him throughout the game. Rodgers, though, he acknowledged that, he played into that, and he got rid of the ball. He only took sacks where he had absolutely no chance. He got rid of the ball when he needed to, but he saw his opportunity and he took it immediately. And that's exactly what they've needed a player to do. I thought, he didn't grade out particularly well, I guess, but for the bar of Steelers quarterbacks, I think he grossly exceeded what we could hope for. And it's not a stat thing. It was more just how he handled his business. A rough start early, largely propelled by his ability to complete passes and to get the ball deeper down the field. He did a phenomenal job of that. And credit to Arthur Smith as well. I thought that he drew up a very good passing attack. I think they've got to get the ground game going a little bit better than they did. But excellent play design, particularly in the second half, utilizing the strength and the skill that they have. And it was not a clean game overall. Rodgers really kind of pushed them over the line to the end, and that's what a good leader and a good quarterback does.
I'll also say this. I mean, look, he wasn't awesome or incredible, but was good. I thought Kenny Gainwell was good in the game. I thought, he's going to be a contributor to the Steelers. Not a star, but I think he'll be a contributor.
Yeah, definitely. I think the fact that he got the majority of the carries, a little bit surprising. He was kind of joking around in a group thread with some buddies of mine. Like, if we see anything now after Jalen Warren's contract, after the removal of Najee Harris, the insertion of a rookie and another veteran, for that veteran to get the carries in Week 1 really only just kind of proves Mike Tomlin does not like Jalen Warren, and Omar Khan does. I say that jokingly, but an interesting choice. I'm not sure, and I'm not saying one way or another. I think Gainwell is a good player. I think he can be an effective player for sure. It was interesting how they utilized him, because in a lot of ways, these look like the kinds of things that you would want to do with Warren. So not 100% sure how that's going to shake out. I think that'll be a talking point as the week goes on, how they game plan for Seattle. But again, it's week one. There's a long way to go. And as we've talked about many times, they've shrunk training camp down quite a bit. They've taken starters largely out of preseason, and there's one last game there as well. I think there's still kind of a feeling out period. And to some degree, situationally, maybe Gainwell was just in line at that point for what they were going to do. And it's a coincidence less than a plan to get him the ball more. But, you can see there's talent there. The run blocking was bad. I mean, really, you hoped that unit would be a lot stronger than they were, which is to say the running backs didn't have much of a chance in this game, in one of the worst running games we've seen from them. So the fact that it wasn't abysmal statistically kind of shows that Gainwell, I think, did a good job with what he was given. Warren did well in limited opportunities. Caleb Johnson, I think he got, 2 carries. They should be able to run the ball better, but they're going to need to get a much stronger, much faster effort out of the offensive line to do that.
Seattle, let's give Sam Darnold credit. He parlayed the Minnesota situation into a great contract. What's your thoughts on this team?
I think probably even more so than the Steelers, they're a team that is going to decide who they are over the first couple games of the season. I think there's a lot still there to work out. We know the physical ability of Sam Darnold. We also know what happens when he's not well coached and he's not put into a structure that works better for him. I don't know if we really saw great things in week one, to put it that way. It's a newer team, a younger team that's going to come together with a lot of new pieces. I don't think this is a year that Seattle's really going to push for a whole lot. And it used to be Steelers in their home opener was a pretty strong bet. I'm not going to go that far. I definitely think it's a winnable game for Pittsburgh. Both teams have areas they need to improve. I think Seattle could have thrown the ball a lot better from what I saw, and some of it kind of seems to be we're not all on the same page. We're not sure what we're doing. But they completely overhauled their team. I don't think they went into the offseason wanting to trade DK Metcalf, but they certainly would have with the right opportunity, and they got that with Pittsburgh. They have a stud over there catching passes that probably will be a lot better than Metcalf over time. Is that going to be right now? Is Darnold the right quarterback for him? Do they have the right scheme in place? I think Flint Kubiak put all of that together. They're going to need some time. In other words, I think that's the kind of team that's going to be a lot better in week 16 than they will be in week 2. And Pittsburgh should be able to kind of get back to business and win fairly decisively. I don't think Seattle talent-wise or strategy-wise is going to be at their highest end yet. But, I don't know. I mean, a lot's going to happen here. Steelers had a couple injuries. Deshaun Elliott's going to be out for a little bit. Sounds like they just signed Jabril Peppers, probably to a practice squad spot. Whether they get a whole lot of run out of him in this week, if they're even going to use him, I don't know. But they've got a lot to fix on defense as well. So I think that's an advantage for Seattle. I think it'll be a pretty competitive game. It's just tough to say who these two teams are right now at this point in the season.
I think we can say about almost everybody after week one. I mean, you may be 1-0. I wouldn't swagger, okay, anywhere, okay? Any team in the NFL. You may be 1-0. Don't swagger just because you're 1-0. Hey, Neal, always a pleasure, my friend. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We'll come back more in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK, brought to you by Brewers Outlet.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.